What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. And today I've got another deck profile for you guys. It's Crusadia OTK. Now there are different ways to build Crusadia. You can kind of do a Crusadia control build. You can obviously do Crusadia Dragon Link. There's a lot of different Crusadia builds you can do. This is the OTK build, and I'm going to disclaim the extra deck. The OTK build extra deck that I am using isn't as diverse as it could be. You'll see when we get into it, but let me clear this all off, and we'll get right into the deck profile. So, starting us off in the main deck, we have 3 copies of Crusadia Maximus. He has the effect, well, all of the Crusadia monsters have the same line of text that they can summon themselves from your hand to a zone a link monster points to. His individual effect is that he can target a Crusadia link monster you control and it deals double battle damage that turn. Both effects are hard ones per turn, and that'll be the case for all of the Crusadia monsters. So this is one of your OTK enablers. You always want to have Echomax with this guy under one of Echomax's arrows, because Echomax will gain 1600 attack from pointing to Maximus, and then he will double the damage that Echomax does. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Crusadia Reclusia. This card is spot removal. Whenever it's summoned, you can target a Crusadia card you control and a card your opponent controls and destroy both cards. I know this was ran in Salamangreats for a little bit because it was a fire and it could summon itself to, Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf's zone, chain block Sunlight Wolf's effect, and remove a card from your opponent's board. It's a good card. It really is. I run it because it's a name, and you really kind of need to see your Crusadias in order to get through your combos. So we run 3 Reclusia. Next, we run 3 of the best Crusadia monster in the deck, Crusadia Draco. Everybody probably knows what Draco does at this point in time, but if you don't, I'll enlighten you. Whenever he's summoned to his own, your link monster points to, you get to add a Crusadia from your graveyard back to your hand. Pretty nuts. Level 4 dragon. I wonder what deck utilizes this. It's totally not a top meta contender called Dragon Link or anything, no. Next, we have 3 copies of Crusadia Arborea. She doesn't really have an on-field effect or a non-summon effect. Her effect is actually graveyard reliant. She has the effect that while she's in the graveyard, if a Crusadia monster or monsters you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish her from the graveyard instead. She's Return of the Dragon Lords for your monsters, which is really nice to have. And then lastly, we have 3 copies of Crusadia Leonis. This is the last Crusadia monster we have because it's the last Crusadia monster in the archetype that isn't in the extra deck. So, 3 Leonis. What does he do? Well, you can target a link monster you control, and it does piercing damage. So, if your opponent, plays anything in defense, you get Maximus and Leonis under an Echomax, and do double piercing battle damage. Well, Echomax is being boosted by 2800 from both of these at a 2000 base. If you have the field spell out, he's 2500, gains the 28, 53, does double piercing. And then we do have a few more monsters to get through, though. We have World Legacy, World Lance, right? Yes, okay. It is World Lance. Sorry. I wanted to say World Sword, but I had to read the name. But this is one of our hand traps in the deck. You heard me right. It is one of our hand traps. During damage calc, if your link monster battles an opponent's monster, you can discard this from your hand to make that opponent's monster lose 3000 attack. That's enough to make Blue Eyes a 0 attack point monster. This card's actually not bad, and it really helps OTK. You know, you swing into something, your opponent's like, okay, whatever. You go damage, or damage calc. Lance. Your monster loses 3,000. Oh, it's now like 0 attack, and my thing does double damage, and it's 5,000. Oh, here, take 10,000 straight to the face. I would say this is pretty nice. And then the last World Legacy card we're running, because we still have more monsters after these, is 3 copies of World Legacy World Crown. It basically acts as another, it's like a pseudo Crusadia monster. It can just summon itself to a zone and link monster points to. That's about it. And then we are running, on top of this, a small little Cyberse engine, because none of the Crusadias are Cybers. We have 3 copies of 4-month Skipper, which, you know what's next, is 3 copies of Parallel Exceed, which you're going to search off your Skippy, because Skippy can change its name to Spatha or whatever in your extra deck. You link it off, you search for Exceed, and then since you link summon, Exceed's effect will activate, blah blah blah. And that is actually our entire monster lineup right there. Very large monster lineup, but not very diverse. Very linear, very, in one place. And then we get started on the spells. Starting us off is 3 copies of Crusadia Power. This card is actually really great. It's a quick play, which is the most versatile card type, or quick play spell, which is the most versatile card type in the game, in my opinion, because you can activate it at any time on your turn, and then if you set it, you can activate it on your opponent's turn, and it's a spell card. Quick play spells are literally the most reactive spell card in the game. This card's really good, because you can target a Crusadia monster you control, and it becomes unaffected by everything except its own effects, which is pretty nice, especially if you target an Echomax that's about to get removed by, like, Dragoon, if your opponent has already used their Dragoon negate. But that's aside the point. There are ways to play around that, and I am playing ways to play around Dragoon and stuff, but we'll get into those in a minute. There's not really a whole lot that I'm playing to do that, but again, that's the whole point of this deck, is like, you guys can alter it however you want, but I'm building it the way I would love it to be played, and I'm just expressing that to you guys. So, next up in the spells, we have 2 copies of the Crusadia field spell, Crusadia Revival. This card just gives a 500 attack point boost, and then you can target a link monster and it can attack all of your opponent's monsters that were special summoned or something like that. It gives it another effect, so like if attacking one monster isn't enough, why not attack them all? Then we're going to get into our generic spells, which I lied about the World Legacy, World Lance, and the World Legacy World Crown being the only World Legacy cards in there, because we have 3 copies of World Legacy Succession. It's essentially another Crusadia monster. By only using 1 Crusadia monster, it summons back. It's Monster Reborn, but it has to summon to a link zone, which is completely fine, especially in this deck, because you gain advantage from summoning to a link zone. And then a little bit of spicy tech that I'm playing is 3 copies of Orchestrated Return. Explanation to this: it is trade-in if you open with multiple Lance or multiple Crown, or if you open up with enough Crusadias that you don't need Crown to, play through, and you need like extra cards, like this next one we're going to talk about, which is actually the last spell card in the deck. 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. If you don't see Dark Ruler in your hand, with this being an OTK build, you're obviously not going to want your opponent to negate all of your combos. So we play Dark Ruler to help mitigate Dragoon, Savage, other, big staple monsters in the metagame that shouldn't be around or shouldn't be splashed into every deck because everyone can. But yeah, my whole reasoning behind this is because we have 6 cards in the deck that are World Legacy cards. This can discard not just Orcust, but World Legacy cards. I believe it's World Legacy monsters, yes. So we have plenty of targets for that card. If your hand's looking really bad and you open with this and a Lance, but you don't open combo, you can get rid of your Lance to hopefully dig deeper into combo pieces. I know I could probably be playing Called by the Grave and other stuff, but the deck is already really, it's already really, how should I put this, tight. As you can see, our spell, this is all we have for the spells. I have no more deck in my hands. And considering that's the end of the spells, that's the entire main deck covered. Let's get into the extra deck. Starting us off in the extra deck. Now, this is why I had the disclaimer where it's like, this extra deck is not, it's not it's not fully OTK, but it's OTK in the way I want it to work. So starting us off, we have 3 copies of Crusadia Echomax. Your Rhoda for the deck, you make it off a normal summon, pretty good. Easy link 1, and a running theme that all of the Crusadia monsters have is they gain attack equal to the original attack, specifically the original attack. If you alter the attack of a monster it points to, it will not change. So let's say your opponent has Lost World on the board. Well, your monster is going to lose the attack from Lost World, but it's going to keep the attack gain that it had from Avermax or Maximus or whatever. Just an example. And yeah, that's really it for that. It's just generically good. It's used in Crusadia Dragon Link, and I can see why. Next, we have 3 copies of Crusadia Echomax. This is your main OTK monster that you're going to want to summon. You always want to have Echomax on the board to push for the OTK. The reason being is because he has the biggest base attack at 2,000. And on top of that, he has a negate. He is a negate. I do not. This card that can push for an OTK is a negate. It not only has the attack gain boost, but it can send a World Legacy or Crusadia or World Legacy card it points to the graveyard to target a face-up card your opponent controls and negate its effects. That's insane. This card is actually really good. Echomax is a decent boss monster for the deck. And I honestly think he's better than Avermax. Fight me if you want to. But the only thing, in my opinion, the only thing Avermax is really good for is being a wall. Like, he just sits there and he's a wall because your opponent can't attack into him because he honests himself, and if he leaves the board, he non-targeting removes a card. It's just a whole thing. Next, we have 3 copies of Crusadia Regulix. Crusadia Regulix is our searcher for our spells and traps if we were running them, which you can definitely run the Crusadia Continuous Trap, which is really good in Crusadia Control, kind of, because it forces your opponent to either swing into your Link monster or do nothing. Unless they have an out to your Link monster, then whatever. But either way, it searches your field spell, it searches power, which, like I said, power is a really good card because it's a quick play spell, and quick play spells are just inherently good. I am also playing to Spatha. There's really no reason for me to be playing Spatha other than the fact that, it's a Crusadia card. Typically in Crusadia builds, if you're not wanting to run Guard Dragons as an engine, you're not going to run Guard Dragons at all. Which this deck is not running Guard Dragons, I assure you that much. But I'm running the 2 Spatha for the names, and if somehow you burn through all 3 Regulix, which probably means you burn through all 3 Magius, you can make Spatha as a Link 2, and then make Echomax as a Link 3. There you go. And then we have the 1 copy of Avermax. Like I said, not my favorite Crusadia card. He's just a generically good Link monster. Not really good for the Crusadia strategy, in my opinion. He's probably better for a Mech Knight strategy, or whatever else can fit him into the extra deck and make him, with his summoning requirement of 2 monsters summoned from the extra deck. I digress. He does not have the stat boost effect. He doesn't have the effect where he gains the attack of what he points to. He just, whenever he battles something that's special summoned, he is a built-in honest. Which is cool. But why? like, why? They could have done better with him, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. Everybody is, they have their own opinions on stuff. Mine is that he's not good for Crusadia, he's just generically good, and he's got the Crusadia name tacked on. Next, we have our generic links, which is 1 copy of Boral Sword Dragon. If you feel like Echomax is not going to be enough, then you have your Boral Sword. And if you're forced to go first, another reason why you could summon Spatha is to make an Apollousa. Apollousa is actually fairly cheap now. She's very budget friendly, as you can tell, because I'm using the gold or alternate art, but I pulled that in one of my maximum gold openings that you can find on the channel. If you go down, click on my channel thing, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to put a link. Yada yada yada, blah blah blah. I digress. And that's it for the Link monsters. I know there is 1 extra deck slot, but you can put in any generic rank 4 in the slot because Parallel Exceed's in the deck. So my generic rank 4 right now is Abyss Dweller. Well, another card I would highly recommend is Rafflesia, and you slot in 1 copy of Gravedigger's Trap Hole. Rafflesia is a bit pricey, I believe. Simply because of the whole Gravedigger's Trap Hole, plus Rafflesia off of a normal summon in this deck. Well, not really in this deck, but just in general. Other cards you could probably use as generic rank 4s are like number 101. You can Dark Ruler to shut off any, monster effects your opponent has. And then make 101 with Parallel Exceed. 101, detach both copies of Exceed. And, proceed to steal an opponent's monster, put it under Echomax's arrow, therefore Echomax gains 2100 attack, and you have a monster that can protect itself from destruction. And, that's pretty good, if I say so myself. Abyss Dweller just stops graveyard shenanigans. If you wanted to, could make Cowboy. You can make Dark Rebellion, even though Dark Rebellion's not that great. You can make Baguska. You can definitely make Baguska. Baguska is a really, really good card for this deck. Because you Parallel Exceed into him, and then Echomax, while pointing to said Baguska, because all of your Crusadias don't activate, and the only ones that do have effects on the field that activate, you're already summoning them in defense, and you probably won't even need their effects unless it's like Draco. But Baguska is pretty good. I'm going to stop ranting, and we're going to close out this video. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit that like button. Comment down below what you think. Maybe list some more generic rank 4s that people could play in the extra deck over the Abyss Dweller, and maybe some other really good OTK cards. Like I said, I'm basically building with what I have on hand. I did order the Crusadia stuff. I went max rarity on the monsters, except for Exceed, because I just took the copies out of my Raid Raptor deck, so I didn't have to spend $6 a piece on the super rares from an OTS pack. Yeah, all the Crusadia monsters, including Leonis, who is an OTS super. I spent the money on to, rarity bump. Because I don't want a deck profile like my World Chalice one, where you're staring at commons. Granted, this stuff is not that expensive. I think the most expensive card was the Maximus, and he was like 70 cents. Echomax has gone down in price. And the most expensive extra deck card is your Avermax, because he's like up to $10 right now for his secret rare printing, and I think his ultra rare printing is like $10, or not $10, like $6. So the Crusadia OTK deck's not expensive. Like I said, if you want to play Rafflesia, you can. You would just have to pick up a Gravedigger's Trap Hole, but I would highly recommend waiting on picking up Gravedigger's Trap Hole and really anything from Etco, because we know that Etco is going to be in the 2020 Megatins, or the 2021 Megatins, which I might try and get my hands on some. Can't guarantee anything, but as I was saying, if you're new, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 100 subscribers. We have been on this grind for so long, and I would love, love, love to finally be done with this road to 100 subscribers. Let me know what you guys would want to see if I hit 100 subs. I could definitely do like a mock duel. I can try and do like a gaming stream on a day where I'm not working, which I'm recording this early on a Wednesday, but because I normally upload on Wednesdays, but I'm recording like kind of early for me, simply because I have work later tonight, and I have work the rest of the week, all the way up to Sunday. So blah blah blah. So again, if you're new, subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, comment some stuff down below, say hi, praise Lord Butterfree. This is going to be a running thing on my channel. Butterfree will be a running thing on this channel. You guys are in for it. Anyways, that's my rambling out of the way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week, probably with a test hand video for this deck. Peace.